marked now, so.
It's marked.
It's marked. And I got my, can you see my shoes on the, oh, we're going to have to change leg crossing to my shoes. Alright, Robbie, it's your show, my friend.
How's it going, guys? My name's Robbie Duff.
And I'm Chris Crawford. Which camera do I look at?
Whichever one you want to look at, I guess.
That's right.
We're coming to you from the Magnolia Inn in Columbia, Mississippi. Chris and I are two new creators for the most part. I've been doing film and photography for about 3 years, and roughly fully 1 year, coming up on 1 year full time. Chris has a lot more experience. He can go
10
into
years.
But we decided we want to go off and start learning more about being a creative and doing more of our own things, possibly doing bigger productions. And we had a few questions starting out that have really given us some trouble, mostly with editing and things like that. Well, today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Kelly Griffin, the wizard, as I call him.
The magician.
The magician, that's right, the magician. The After Effects wizard.
I was talking about coin magician, but yeah, you're pretty magical After Effects too.
And he's here with us today to talk about his start a little bit and how he first got started in the industry. And Kelly, how many years have you been doing this?
I think I'm working on 15, like between 13 and 15. I'm not exactly sure, somewhere in there.
And what first got you into video?
Well, it's kind of strange. I have an IT background, and I actually got hired by a production company to do their web development and application development. And I started coming in on Saturdays to help them shoot. And I just kind of fell in love with the process, but I guess it actually goes deeper than that. Well, we'll just get real for a minute. I went through a divorce, and I was living in an apartment with no cable, no television. All I had was stacks of DVDs. I had 2 young children, and so I would buy them stacks of DVDs that we'd watch together. And one of the people that they gravitated to was Robert Rodriguez, his kids movie, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, the Spy Kids, all the Spy Kids 1, 2, and 3, and all that. And so Robert Rodriguez is a super giving creative, and so in all of his DVDs, if you buy the ones with the bonus footage, you will get the director's commentary, you will get a 10-minute film school, and you will get his whole outlook on creating movies. Really? And so when my kids would go home after the weekends and I didn't have anything else to do, I would rewatch these movies with the director's commentary on.
That's cool.
And then and then I would watch all the 10-minute film schools, and Robert Rodriguez literally taught me into being a filmmaker.
Now, when you were first starting out, what was the hardest part for you to learn, in your opinion?
Man, it's all hard. It's like learning how to play guitar. You will never think you're good at it. If you're honest with yourself and you have any kind of self-awareness, it's something that you'll always be learning. You'll never feel like you're good at it.
Sure.
I agree. I definitely go through that. I'm probably my worst critic.
Right, and you should be always. You should always be your own worst critic.
Yeah.
My biggest hurdle to get over in the beginning was I would see these videos by the Peter McKinnons and all these people that have been doing it for 3 to 4 years or longer, and then frustrated why my stuff didn't look anything like that.
And see, that's silly because you showed me a video earlier of the glass blowing things, and I was like, oh my God, that's so good.
Right. I told him the same thing.
As somebody who's been doing this for a while, it made my butthole clench a little bit. I'm just going to say it out loud.
Specifically for me watching that video, the shot that blew my mind the most was the shot he did, the rack focus, when he was setting the bowl down. It was focus on the bowl. The guy was blurry, and it pulls back, and now he's in focus. That was a sweet freaking shot.
Right, and I watched it on a phone.
Yeah.
So I can just imagine what it would look like on a big screen.
Really dynamic stuff. But like he said, he's his own worst critic, and just doesn't think it's good enough. And I'm like, man, you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, well, I mean, never lose that, though.
Yeah, right.
Never lose that humbleness. There's always somebody you can look at and go, oh my goodness, that's so far 3 levels above what I'm doing right now.
And that was always my biggest problem, and one thing it took me a long time to realize is the goal should just be to make a better video the next time. To
Right.
constantly just get a little bit better and to learn a new skill and add that into your arsenal.
Most
That's all you
definitely.
can do.
Yeah, and that is literally the key to indie filmmaking. If you are a filmmaker, if you make narratives and you try to direct actors and try to put something on screen that moves people and brings some kind of emotion, all you can do is, after you make one, be as honest and critical as you can about it and get feedback from people who aren't your friends.
Right.
And learn.
Oh yeah, because mom's always gonna say, "Oh, you're the best singer. You're the
Oh,
best.
my
Oh,
God.
this is the best video I've ever seen."
Man, your
Yeah.
friends and family are not the people you need to get criticism
they're
from.
not.
One of the things that I find difficult to measure, because Robbie just said it, is your goal should be to make it better each time. But how do you really measure better?
Well, you look at what you did and honestly critique it. Was the talent strong enough?
Sure.
Was the composition strong enough? There are white balance, focus, exposure. I mean, that's the three strikes. You have to have those 3 things.
Right.
Unless you're shooting raw. I mean, there's a little forgiveness there.
Sure.
But if you have those 3 things, then the rest is getting what you need
Right.
out of the people who
Right.
are in front of the camera
Right.
and telling the story properly. And you'll learn things as you go, as far as the direction of pans and the next direction of the pan and how you want to cut these things together. Do I want this thing to keep going to the left? Or do I want it to go left, right, left, right? And they all tell a different story.
Yep.
So, one's a little more chaotic than the other, one's a little more flowy and stuff. And so they all evoke different emotions, and you learn that as you shoot and as you edit, and everybody is their own worst critic when they're editing. Even though you shot it, it's the worst camera work ever, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I suck so hard every time I try to edit something I shot. But you learn creative ways to pull yourself out of that hole.
And I think one thing that would probably be valuable to whoever happens to be watching this video is, as a photographer, Robbie's a photographer first and then became a filmmaker.
Right.
I started out as a videographer. I don't even call myself a filmmaker, and then got into photography. A photographer has the benefit of taking a shot, looking at it, and saying, "Yep, that's good. Let's go to the next shot."
Right.
Whereas a filmmaker, a videographer, a person, your A operator, B operator, whatever, they're just hit record and have to trust that whatever they just shot is going to be good when they go back to post.
Right.
So for you got to know what you're going to have to work with when it's all said and done.
Right. Well, I'm editing it, and
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, you guys love to shoot. I shoot because I need something to edit.
Right.
It's that simple.
Sure.
I do not love to shoot.
Yeah.
I just shoot because it's part of the process, and I have no choice but to do it.
Right.
If I could just sit back and edit, that's what I would do.
And that's what's good about filmmaking, working together with other creatives. Is because, one thing's a strength for one, which is a weakness for others.
Right.
And you love editing. I hate editing. I can't stand it.
Make that 2 of us. Well, and I think probably your hatred for it stems a lot from my hatred for it. Is that because we are so hard on ourselves that we feel like our edits are never good enough.
Right.
For example, the hunting video. Like, I cut the exact same video you cut, but I guarantee your cuts were like maybe 4, 5, 6 frames before mine, and yours looked so much more cinematic, commercial quality as opposed to a home video that I edited, because I didn't time my cuts as well as you time yours.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. There are some cuts that are industry standard, J cuts and L cuts,
Right.
and when you slam on dialogue, when you slam on the guy who starts his dialogue here,
Yeah.
and then slam on the guy who starts his dialogue here, it feels really amateurish.
Forced and yeah.
Forced and amateurish.
Yeah.
You should stay on the one person long enough to get a reaction to what this person said before you cut to this
Sure.
person. And so there's a way to there's a way to cut things, and it's not necessarily more cinematic. It's just more pleasing
Sure.
to commercials, television, movies, whatever.
See, the first time we got together to shoot the commercials, you told me that if there's one thing you could teach me about editing, it would be to cut before the frame,
Right.
or after to get the emotion, and that's the most valuable, I think, piece of information I've received in all of filmmaking.
You almost feel like you're breaking a rule when you allow the audio to come in of this guy while you're still on this guy, or vice versa, and it works.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What
It flows so
separates-
much better together.
Right.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, you know, when you watch it, if they got it or they didn't.
Right.
Like,
right.
it's so obvious because it looks so forced and amateurish
Right.
when you don't bring that J cut, L cut into
Right.
into your editing style. It's amazing how something so simple can have such a profound impact on the overall quality of your project.
Yeah, and I mean that's editing 101.
Yeah.
It really is. So,
So I want to kind of segue a little bit different or away from our script, because I want to ask him a question, because this is something that I think we both are kind of stuck in limbo over right now. Gimbal versus tripod. I am always on the lookout for the next good gimbal.
yeah,
because
I showed
hate-
you a $35 one right before we started.
Exactly. But you know, I'm always on the lookout for the next big gimbal, because I'm lugging around this big Ronin M with a C100 on it.
Right.
And you know, my back, my shoulders, my neck, everything is give out for 4 days, because I'm almost 40 now and I'm not as young as I once was. And then, you know, they come out with the Weeble Lab and all this stuff. But then I shoot with these gimbals, and I find that I put way too much motion into my shots. It's like I should have shot that with a tripod.
Right.
Or at least held the freaking gimbal stable and stopped trying to chase everything. I feel like there's been so much of a push from the market to sell gimbals and sell these cinema stabilizers,
Right.
that everybody thinks they have to get all this movement, self included. Okay, number one subject right here.
Right.
That I've almost undervalued my tripod and left it in the trunk,
Right.
when I should have just had the darn tripod. Just carry, you know.
Right.
Well, I will say when I shoot music videos, I will shoot them handheld. I will put the neck strap on. I will push it out and get it nice and tight and get some action in there. But if I want some controlled handheld, I will shoot on sticks, and I will shoot at a resolution that's higher than what I know I'm going to punch into.
Right.
And then later on, if I want to add some nice organic handheld to it, I'll stick a piece of paper on the wall with an X of electrical tape on there, and I'll take a camera and I will shoot it, and I will try to give it some organic movement and give it some energy and some action, and I will take that and track it, and I will link it to my footage, and then I will get that handheld track in there.
Right.
And it's nice and organic. There's a bunch of plugins for handheld,
Yeah.
but I haven't found one yet that was organic, that felt
Sure.
human. And so it takes literally 15 seconds to slap some tape on the wall, to grab a camera, shoot it,
Right.
and then track that, and that's your own handheld now from sticks.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah, it works. It works good. And with the camera tracking in Premiere now or in After Effects, super, super simple. Especially if you're not tracking Z motion forward and back. If it's just this, you know, on one plane, super easy to track.
But
really
the key, I think, to that, again, to whoever's watching, is you got to shoot in a higher resolution than what you're going to final render at.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're gonna punch in on a 1080 that you're on a 1080 file that you're going to export as 1080, and now you're basically editing 720.
Exactly.
And so your footage is now grainy as crap because
Right.
you're trying to put this
You
organic.
need to shoot
that one
at a
shot.
bigger.
Yeah.
Yes, and the same thing for stabilizing.
Right.
Right.
If you're going to stabilize something, you
Yep.
need to find your comp inside what you shot, and then you have all that room.
That's right.
For it to stabilize.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Learn that lesson hard.
Oh, you and me both,
Many
man.
times.
The shakiest footage I ever got was on a deer hunt in Missouri one year.
Being hard on yourself, I'm telling you, some high energy, shaky stuff works in certain situations.
Sure.
Right.
You just can't depend on it. It
Yeah.
just has to be there for,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the next question I think Robbie and I wanted to ask was, you know, and we know the answer, but what is your preferred editing software of choice? And right now, why is it your editing software of choice?
Okay, so this is like a loaded question. There are people who will fight fisticuffs like 30 style boxing, put up your dukes over their editing software.
Sure.
So I use Premiere right now, and I do it simply because I can right click on a clip and bring it into After Effects and do what I need to do in After Effects, and it updates over here in real time.
Right.
Playable. That is the only reason I use Premiere. Now, you both know that I downloaded Resolve, and I used it for my last 2 videos that I cut because I want to get my color correction on point. I really like it. I will say that I'm not married to any of them. I've cut movies on Windows Movie Maker. I've cut movies on iMovie. I've cut film on my phone. If you can cut here and splice there, then you're in business.
Sure.
Who cares what you use to make your
Exactly.
product?
And they all do the same thing. It's
They
just
do.
which one works best with you.
Exactly.
Like me personally, Final Cut, and that's really the reason I use Final Cut is for quicker rendering times, and it just works better with a Mac.
Right.
And I was able to learn in half the time compared to Premiere, and I feel like I'm able to edit the videos maybe a few hours faster than doing them in Premiere. That's my
And
thing.
see, I'm actually the exact opposite because I use After Effects so much to like remove mic packs and to remove logos and signs and to track and to do things. It's almost just second nature for me to be able to right click on a clip, get it in After Effects, do roto and do what I need to do and see it update real time over here. But I'm not married to it.
Sure.
If somebody came out with something just as good tomorrow, I would move to it.
Sure.
Just like that.
Sure. And I would imagine, obviously I don't know this for a fact yet, but I would imagine most people starting out, if they're starting out like we did, don't have they have a limited budget.
Right.
And that's one downside for me to Premiere is that you have to have that monthly subscription.
Right.
Whereas, with DaVinci you get a free version.
Right.
That you can have for free and do everything a beginner, amateur,
Most definitely.
novice needs to do without even paying a dime.
Right. And not only are you getting something you can edit with, but you are getting the premier color correction node-based device in the world.
Right. Right.
And if you want to be able to color correct video, that's what you need to be using. They are the masters of it. Right.
Yeah. And the with Premiere, I mean, I love, again, back to the photography thing, I use Lightroom.
Right.
And so I love that
Lumetri,
Lumetri and Premiere. I love that color editing method because I'm used to it for Lightroom. But it's all the other things that I can't do in Premiere that I can do in Final Cut.
Right.
Just the fact of having a scrubbing playhead, when I move my mouse, it moves the playhead, and it can't. I have not figured out how to do that in Premiere. I don't know if you can. I'm sure you can. I just haven't figured it out.
Well, here's the difference. You started with Final Cut.
That's right.
And you then tried to use Premiere.
Absolutely.
If you started with Premiere and then started to try to use Final Cut, you'd be like,
Right.
See, I did start on Premiere.
Right.
I could never figure out how to do a transition. Every time I would stick a transition down, that's what actually sold me to Final Cut.
There's so much information on the internet to learn how to do it. And let me just tell you, if you don't know about videocopilot.net, get out of the business because you can learn everything you need to know.
And that's kind of the whole purpose of this channel is you can go on YouTube and find anything on
I'm so
everything.
jealous of the people now who have the Peter McKinnons and who have these guys who can show them these shortcuts and these cool things. Didn't have that.
Exactly.
We just had to learn it the hard way.
And I'm sure for back in your day when you first started, most people in the industry went to film school.
Oh yeah.
And nowadays you don't have to. I mean, not to say film school still isn't important; it doesn't have its place.
Yeah,
but,
I actually kind of entertained the thought of maybe getting some film school sometime in the future, just for some theory, just for some things that I never really got to
Yeah.
I just, I hit the ground running, and I had to have a product done. I had to make it worthy of what I was charging for it. I had to get paid, and I had to move on to the next project. And you guys know this. No project is ever complete. It's only abandoned.
That's right.
You only go, man, I can't work on this
just
anymore.
done.
It's done.
I'm just done.
It's done.
Yeah. Take
But
it.
but there is not a project that you will ever do that you can't look at in the future and go, oh, I should have done this. I could have. Oh wait, I could have done.
Yeah.
And it's like you will never be satisfied. Hopefully, you will never be satisfied with your project.
Yeah. If you ever get satisfied, I think it's time to change jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
You've peaked. You're
Yeah.
done. It's time to find another thing.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, to wrap things up, I've got one last question for you. I'd like to know, what is the most important thing, in your opinion, someone should know that's starting out in filmmaking? What is probably the biggest tip you give a new filmmaker starting out?
Watch films. Find somebody that you appreciate and love, and just imitate them. Just make sure you get better every time you do it.
And buy big media cards.
Yeah.
Buy large storage cards.
Yeah, and batteries.
And batteries.
Big batteries.
Definitely batteries.
Big
Definitely
batteries, terabytes of storage, gigabytes of SD cards.
Yeah.
And batteries.
For a new filmmaker starting out, that's where you should definitely be spending your money if you're going to spend money. It shouldn't be on the latest lens, the latest camera. It should definitely be on storage and batteries and media.
Don't be scared to do narratives. Don't be scared to write something and find some people who are decent actors and go on a weekend and have some fun with the camera and your friends and try to shoot something. Do it.
Hey, Robbie, you want to go shoot a movie?
Let's do it.
So...
And I think that's our kind of our hope for this whole channel, this whole concept is, we've got fears, you've got fears. There's obviously a skill level difference in the three people sitting in this room right now.
Right,
and
but we
all
still
have fears.
push the button and go, oh shit, it's recording now. I
Yes.
missed that whole part.
Absolutely.
Now how do I clap out of this and get them to do it again,
That's
only
right.
better this time?
That's right.
And that is the difference between someone who doesn't do it and someone who does do it.
Bingo. All right,
Find
we
some
out.
actors.
Find some actors, whoever. You want to encourage them to smash the like button and hit the subscribe and ring the bell and all that.
What's up?
What's up, everybody? Yeah. Anyway, Robbie, take us out, man.
All right.
Yeah, tell us goodbye.
Yeah.
Tell them goodbye.
Well, guys, I hope you guys, I hope you enjoyed it. We're getting ready to head to NAB here at another. Crap.
Hey, I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
We hope you guys enjoyed the video. We are headed to NAB April 7th through the 10th. And then we're going to come back and hopefully film a lot more of our learning and mistakes. And hopefully you guys will find something interesting out of it. Maybe learn a thing. Maybe share something with us. Help us learn something. And so until next time, we'll see you in the funny papers.
That's right.
Peace out.
Y'all make films. Just make it.
Make
Just
movies.
do it. Make them.
Make movies, Robbie. Free.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now. I like cut.
All right.
Wait, did we clap out? I don't know.